you are on a yet another busy emergency department shift, you get a young female who has been brought by her husband with complaints of seizures and is now comatose. She had a history of depression in the past. She presented to the department with shock, tachycardia, and is diaphoretic. You've got an excellent team who jumps off with the primary survey, performs the resuscitation, and after a lot of effort, the patient is, just doing okay. The senior comes in for the rounds and asks, where is the patient's ECG? An ECG? Why would I get an ECG done on this patient? She had presented with seizures and is comatose. Well, it turned out that the ECG could have led you to the exact cause of the patient's presentation. Now it's the time to know and understand that when should you do an ECG in the emergency department.
Greetings, emergency care providers. I am Dr. Naman Agrawal, MD in Emergency Medicine from AIIMS New Delhi, and we are here with a brand new series of case discussions as well as concept discussions in which we'll discuss about emergency ECG basics. We need to understand as to when to obtain an ECG, and then we'll discuss as to what are the ways of obtaining an ECG, that is, how do we get it, and then we go ahead and interpret the ECGs.
Here in this video, we'll discuss about the indications and when not to get an ECG done. For detailed discussions about various aspects of interpretation and obtaining an ECG trace, etc., do check the channel and see the link of videos in the description below.
So first, talking about when, let's talk about the indications for getting an ECG trace. As you are aware, MI or myocardial infarction is diagnosed on an ECG. This is a very broad kind of an understanding, not complete. It's an incomplete understanding, but this is grossly the case in which the myocardial infarction is diagnosed on an ECG, and the typical presentation of myocardial infarction is a chest pain. Keeping that in mind, it's also mandatory to get an ECG done on all patients with chest pain where you have a suspicion of a possible myocardial infarction. As far as the system goals are concerned, the ECG should be done within 10 minutes of patient's arrival. Should be done as soon as possible, but within 10 minutes of patient arrival. One thing which needs to be kept in mind is that the ECG does not take precedence over resuscitation. It's very important that you go ahead and evaluate and manage the patients based on the airway breathing circulation paradigm, which is the primary survey, simultaneously resuscitating the patient. In the meantime, give a call for the ECG technician, and once the patient is stable enough, to get a 12-lead ECG on such patients. Okay, it's very important. Do not hold resuscitation to get an ECG just because you learned that it should be done as soon as possible in patient with acute chest discomfort. Yes, if the patients are stable, together with giving other medications and other things, initiating other evaluations, you can start off and get an ECG trace done as well. Also, very importantly, the second point is any patient with drug overdoses, which is an unknown drug overdose or a mixed drug overdose, or if the drug is known and is known to cause cardiovascular or CNS effects. In such cases, it's very crucial to get an ECG done. Sometimes when the drug under question is not known and you get an ECG, you can get typical and pathognomonic findings. I'm sure the spelling here is wrong, but you may find pathognomonic findings on getting a 12-lead ECG trace. So it's so important to get ECG in such patients with drug overdoses. Okay, any patients with refractory shock, the patients who are not responding to fluids or responded to fluids but now they have worsened again, or have adverse effects to fluids like volume overload, etc., you should consider some kind of a cardiac source or cardiac pathology in such patients, and you should consider an ECG. This will give you an idea about various ECG rhythm abnormalities when the patient is going into an unstable tachyarrhythmia or a bradyarrhythmia. This can give you an idea about the various chamber functions and of ischemia, of course. Okay, so it's very, very crucial to get an ECG on all patients with refractory shock. Any patient who has a too fast a heart rate or too slow a heart rate, we'll see what and how to approach for tachy and bradycardias subsequently in the subsequent classes. But just remember, any patient with suspected tachycardia or bradycardia, you need to categorize as to what kind of tachycardia or what kind of bradycardia that patient is having. You should get an ECG trace. Any patient with acute shortness of breath can have various causes, various systems could be involved. One of them is a cardiac etiology, including ischemia. Okay, cardiac ischemia can present with acute shortness of breath without chest pain also, and hence warrant an ECG to be done in such patients. Okay, syncope. Syncope is a very, very high risk and a bad chief complaint. This is not a very good chief complaint because many causes of syncope can actually lead to cardiac arrest. So much so that whenever you see a patient with syncope in the emergency department, you should consider this as an aborted cardiac arrest. It is so important and so crucial to evaluate this patient. The causes of the syncope can, if left unchecked or if they get repeated, can lead to cardiac arrest straight away. Very, very important. And luckily, ECG is a tool which can pick up a lot of pathologies, both cardiac as well as extracardiac, which can lead to syncope. Intracranial pathologies, pulmonary pathologies, cardiac pathologies, etc. There are many high-risk conditions which can lead to syncope, and those can be picked up very accurately on an ECG. And as I said, when we talk about syncope, we should always consider a patient who is in cardiac arrest, who has been resuscitated and now has a return of spontaneous circulation. These are the patients where you should get an ECG done, and it is very, very helpful in decision making after ROSC. Having said all these, we may have missed a lot of points. So a general rule of thumb is that if you have any concern about cardiac pathology in any patient in the emergency department, you should always get an ECG done. So now you are aware as to why ECG is so crucial. It can give you so much of an information, but at what cost? The benefits of an ECG are it is very informative, can be learned easily. As you can see through these classes, initially once you are getting acquainted to the ECG, you'll have a bit of a learning curve. After this learning curve is reached, you'll be able to read a lot of ECGs, and with practice you'll be able to diagnose a lot of conditions and make a lot of decisions based on ECG findings in the emergency department. That's a wonderful thing to do. It is very cheap as well. It does not require anything except for a ink and an ECG paper. Of course, these are the inventory in addition to an ECG machine, which is a one-time investment. Not a very costly thing to maintain as well. Does not require a lot of reagents and other things which are required in other tests. It's very cheap. It's very informative. Can be learned easily. Okay. It is reproducible. It is in black and white. So this can be reproduced and can be interpreted by many providers. If there is a doubt or if it is repeated again, it can be interpreted in a retrospect by various providers. So that decreases the subjectivity of ECG reading. Okay, so this is when we're talking about the indications.
Thank you for watching this video. If you found this video informative, do hit the like button. If you found any aspect of this video particularly new to you, do let me know in the comment box. Also, do add your experiences and anything which I may have missed out here so that we all can learn together. Watch out more interesting videos on ECGs on this channel. Subscribe to my channel ECG Sadhana for many interesting discussions on cases, concepts and practices related to the emergency ECGs. Until then, stay healthy and keep saving lives.